Hi, it's Mr. Wigdahl. Welcome to a lesson on comparing decimals. There's a few different ways that you can compare decimals to kind of put them in order of smallest to largest. And one of those ways is to use benchmarks or numbers that the numbers you're trying to compare are close to. I'm going to show you an example of that right here. So I have 5 benchmarks set up. I have decimals near or equal to 0. I have decimals near or equal to 1/10 or 0.1. I have decimals near or equal to 5/10, which is a half. I have decimals near or equal to 1 whole and decimals much greater than 1. And so if you set yourself up a chart like this with benchmarks, then it's just a matter of taking all of the numbers you're trying to put in order and distributing them into the different piles. So here I have 0.002. That number is very small. It's almost 0. So I'm going to move it up in here to near or equal to 0. I have 0.14. That's close to 1/10. Just a little bit over 1/10. I have 0.999. That's actually almost 1. This 9/10. Or you could say 99 hundredths, or the number is actually 999 thousandths. It's very close to 1 whole. So I'm going to put it here. I have 43 hundredths, which is about a half, or about 5/10. I have 0.017 or 17 thousandths. That's another number that's very close to 0. I have 21 hundredths, which is close to 1/10. I have 13 4/10, which is quite a bit more than 1. I have 26 21 hundredths, which is also a lot more than 1. I have 89 hundredths. That's close to 1. And I have 637 thousandths, which is a little more than 5/10, but about 5/10. So now the question is, if you look at all these, what do they have in common? If you look at all the decimals near or close to 0, what do they have in common? Well, they both have a 0 in the ones place. They both have a 0 in the tenths place. The number in the hundredths place is very small. And then they do have some thousandths. If I look at the numbers near or equal to 1/10, those both are right around 1 in the 1/10 place, which makes sense. The numbers near or equal to 5/10 or a half, this one has a 4 in the tenths place. This one has a 6 in the tenths place. They're both very close to 5. These ones that are close to 1, the notable thing about those is that the number in the tenths place is very large. After 9, if you're counting up by tenths, you got 1/10, 2/10, 3/10, and on up, and you get to 8/10, 9/10. The next thing you get is 10/10, which is actually puts a 1 in the ones place. So that makes it 1. So you can see why that works. And then, of course, decimals greater than 1, what do they have in common? Well, they actually have numbers in the whole part of the decimal, on the left side of the decimal. They have numbers in the ones place and numbers in the tens place. So then if I want to put these in order, I can just easily say, from left to right, they are increasing in value, smallest to largest. Sometimes your numbers will look very similar, and it'll help to have a place value chart like this to put your numbers into to compare them. For example, if you had 7 hundredths and you were comparing it to 72 thousandths, they look real similar. You're trying to figure out which one's bigger. What you would do is you would put them into your place value chart I'm going to put them underneath my place value chart so we can still see them. 7/100ths looks like this. We got decimal, 0, 7, and 72 thousandths goes decimal, 0, 7, 2. And anytime you're missing a number, you can always fill in a 0. So here we have 70 thousandths and 72 thousandths. So obviously the 72 is greater than the 70, or 72 thousandths is greater than 7/100ths. Let me show you another one. Let's see, you had 1 and 7/10 and 107 thousandths. Well, right away you probably see that this one has a 1 hole and this one has 0 holes, so of course this one's bigger. But let's put it into our place value chart anyway, just to be totally sure. So 1 and 7/10, you're going to have a 1 in the ones place, you're going to have your decimal, and you're going to have 7 in the tenths place. Your 107 thousandths has a 0 in the ones place, a 1 in the tens place, a 0 in the hundredths place, and a 7 in the thousandths place. So now you start at the furthest left, because these are the biggest, these are worth the most. You know, tens worth more than 1, one's worth more than tenths, tenths is worth more than hundredths, hundredths is worth more than thousandths. So we start right here, and you can see right away, without even looking too hard, 1 is bigger than 0. So 1 and 7/10 is greater than 107 thousandths. Let me show you one last one. Let's say we had 60 hundredths and 600 thousandths. What if you were trying to compare those? That's kind of tricky, because here we got 60 and here we got 600. 600 must be bigger. Well, not so fast. We put them into our place value chart. We have a 6 and a 0, 6 in the tenths, 0 in the hundredths, and a 6 and a 0 and a 0. And remember, if we want, we could fill this 0 in. So what we actually have is 600 thousandths and 600 thousandths. And I know what you're thinking. Those are actually equal. And you're right, they are. Okay, so rounding decimals. If you know anything about rounding, this is going to make a lot of sense to you. It's basically all about place value and then looking if the number is 5 or greater, 4 or less. Remember, if you have a number line and your number line goes from 0 to 9 and you cut it in half, right here you got 5 and 4 basically. And so anything that's going to be on this side rounds down, and anything that 5 or greater is going to round up, and it actually rounds up to the next 10. So same thing applies to decimals. Let's say we have 45 and 67 hundredths, and we want to round it to the nearest tenth. Well, we look at one number to the right and it's a 7. 7's over here, which rounds up. So this is going to round to the next tenth, which is 7. So it rounds up to 45 and 7/10. See that? Let's do another. Let's say you have 0 and 51 thousandths, and you want to round it to the nearest hundredth. This right here is your hundredth. Want to round it to the nearest hundredth, you look one digit to the right, you look at the 1. Where's a 1? 1's down here. So it rounds down to the last tenth, and the last tenth is the 5. So that rounds to 5/10. Now, let's say we wanted to round this number to the nearest. Oh, I'm sorry, did I say 5/10? 5/100ths. Let's say I wanted to round 5/100ths to the nearest tenth. Well, this is the 10th spot. So I look over to the right one, look at the 5. 5 is greater. 5 rounds up to the next 10. So this is going to go up to the next 10th. What's the next 10th past 0? 1. So that rounds to 1/10. And that's rounding.